Powered by Riverside.
Intro music. Good evening, folks. Welcome back. Three Guys, Many Games. We had a few weeks off there, but we're happy to be back. I'm Steve Sombrato, acting as your host. I'm joined by my partners, my dear brother Vinny Sombrato, Mr. Chaminade, Rob Smalley, and tonight we have a special guest for you. I've been really excited about this because we're going back to our Long Island Lacrosse Club roots. And initially, a few years back, this gentleman reached out to me through Facebook and sent some old school pictures of Long Island when he was playing with the club, and it was just great to see where he's taken this, and we're going to get into a little bit more of it. We have the great Dick Bond. How about we hear it for Dick Bond?
All right.
Thank you. So, Dick, thanks for joining us. I've been, like I said, from when you contacted me, it's so interesting anytime we get an opportunity to talk to some of the original old timers from Long Island Lacrosse Club. Long Island Lacrosse Club is so near and dear to our heart that anytime it's special, anytime we get a chance to talk to people that have been associated, especially ones that predate us. Most people think it's, how long Vinny played. They think that's where it started, but it was well before that. So we're going to get some great insight in terms of, your history. Maybe you could start by giving us a little bit, your introduction to the game even. Like, you're from down Baltimore, correct?
Yeah, I missed all you guys. I was gone by the time you all got there and made your impacts. And I say in the book, I think some of you need to write about that era, the 80s, late 80s, 90s, and so on, because it's such a great era. And I was gone by then. I started in high school down in Maryland and played high school lacrosse, and then I went to UMBC. I was actually, my wife and I were in the first graduating class of 1970. We started in the fall of '66 as freshmen. They had a club team the first year, and then it became a varsity sport. So by '70, I graduated, and I played 2 years of club lacrosse at Carling Lacrosse Club, if you guys remember that, in Baltimore. Then my job took me to Connecticut, and that's when I got involved with Long Island.
So you mentioned Carling. I mean, that's definitely before my time. I don't know if you remember them at all, Vin. But doing my research, they were a very strong, established club, along with Mount Washington and Maryland Lacrosse Club and some others.
Yeah, we came in. I came in at a good time. I always loved these guys in the PLL that didn't come from strong programs because that was me. I mean, half the Mount Washington team was Hopkins guys, Navy guys, Virginia guys, Maryland guys, and so nobody knew UMBC, and back then, and so I always loved these PLL guys that come from smaller programs and make it. So we came in, and in '71 we got to the finals, the Southern Division finals, and we got beat by Mount Washington, and then they got into the finals against Long Island, and Long Island beat them for that championship. And then in '72, we won the championship for Carling, beating Long Island down at Norris Field in Baltimore. And then after that, that was in June, and then September I had moved to Connecticut, and that next spring I played for Long Island.
So Vin, this is an interesting three-peat.
Yeah, there weren't too many. There weren't too many teams in the north at that point. I'm assuming there was Long Island. There might have been Huntington Lacrosse Club was actually a team at that time. I think there was not the New York AC, but maybe the New York Lacrosse Club. You had Brine, maybe Brine, maybe I'm
Brian
not,
up in
not
Boston.
yeah, if they called it Brine at that time. Yeah. So
Brian was our biggest opposition in the years that I played, and then in 77, 78 came Central New York, and they got a lot of those Cornell guys, McEnany and
right,
French, and
right.
a couple of our guys. Mike Walvogel switched up to there for a while, and they became our strong competition. My last year with Long Island was 78. We won the championship in 78. But back in the early years, 73, 74, 75, if you wanted to play on the best, you went out for Long Island. New York Lacrosse Club wasn't very strong. Huntington, they had one called
Right.
Tobay Lacrosse Club,
Tobey, yeah. Yeah.
Westchester, a
Yeah.
couple of others, but we were the strongest. So we had an easier time getting to the finals than when I was with Carling. You always had Mount Washington, of course, and Maryland Lacrosse Club was strong. They had a couple of three or four others that had possibilities of getting it, but usually it was Mount Washington or then Carling.
Yeah, it's funny. I really just missed you by a year because in 1979 I was out of school and I played for Long Island that year in 79. You said your last year you played was 78. And I remember when I was playing for Long Island in 78, I mean for Hofstra 78, we scrimmaged you a couple of times. We
Yeah,
used
we
to
used
scrimmage
to. How was
Saturday
Howdy Myers
morning.
the coach then?
No, he was gone at that
Was
point.
was
It was
Howdy
Harry
Myers the
Royal.
coach?
Yeah, no, Harry Royal had become the coach at that point.
Okay.
But we
Yeah, I
always would
remember
schedule now.
scrimmaging you every year.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember now. The last year you played was Tom Flatley the coach, or was that Kaylee's last year? I'm trying to remember who was your coaches at Long Island.
They they both coached, and it was Billy Barose's rookie year was my last year. And
Okay,
but both Cayley and Flatley were coaching still, and John Phillips.
and John was, yeah, he
So
coached and was more general manager.
when you first arrived at the club and your thoughts when you were, they had so many great players. They were renowned even at that time before you joined them. They had obviously won a few championships, and you beat them the year before. So what was that like when you first came there? Because you had just beaten them that when you arrived.
Yeah, I mean that was a great introduction, and I was welcome there. But it was, I had played against these guys for 2 years, so they were all. And you got to keep in mind too, I didn't come out of that strong program, so these guys were like they were contemporaries, they were peers, but they were heroes at the same time. So the first time we played, I remember we played Mount Washington. I mean, we played Long Island, and I was down at Carling. Dick Finley was on that team, and I think maybe Jack Emmer. I'm not sure, but these are guys that I had watched in college when I played, and now I'm on the same field with them. And then I get to Connecticut and Long Island, and now I'm teammates with them. So these guys were like heroes, but they were peers. And the other big factor was I was a foreigner. I was an outsider. The culture of Long Island lacrosse was so different than Maryland, and I always considered it a privilege that I grew up in Maryland. I came out of that background. I played college and then 2 years of club, but I was a foreigner coming in, and I walked into a whole different culture, and that was a real education. I talk about that a lot in the book, and frankly, I give a lot of props in the book, much more to Long Island than I do. Are any of your Maryland people listening? I give
Right.
a lot more props to Long Island, and I felt like I learned more with those guys. So that was really quite a culture shift for me playing with those guys, even though I had 2 years of experience and a championship ahead of me, behind me rather.
I saw a few of the, there's been clips going around from the book, and we're going to get, for all the people out there, we're going to get these links out so you get a chance to get and read about this history of lacrosse. And it is such interesting history to what I call the greatest club lacrosse team ever, the Long Island Lacrosse Club, because of the absolute dominance. And the one clip that I saw that really resonated with me was you had told a story about my coach, my mentor, Tommy Postel, his brother Rhodesy, who was also great to always be around, and you had won, and he says, now you see why we won. And the passage was that almost as though mystically the players turn into a different team come playoff and championship times. And when I read that, I really felt that, because I really felt like that's the teams that I was on, the teams that when I was young and associated, and then as I became a veteran, it's almost like there was a belief that when it did come time, things were going to always work out. It just was good vibes, especially when the games got the hardest. That we had confidence that somebody was going to step up. It didn't matter who, but it was such a great team culture that somebody was going to get it done, and we were all going to benefit from that. But that passage definitely resonated with me, because I definitely know exactly what you meant, because I felt it. I felt it myself.
Yeah, I really enjoyed writing that part, because that was kind of the magic of the thing. I think I had led the team in scoring that year in '73, and so I was playing really well. I felt like I delivered. But when I got to that championship game, these guys I'd been playing with all season, not only Postel and Frazier, but all the other guys, it's like they had a different gear, and I was fighting just to catch up with it, and I feel like I was being carried along. That's why I missed when you and your brother and Vinny came along and played, because I couldn't get down to the island that much. I went to a couple of their games, but I kind of shifted away from the culture. But then with all the history I read about, I think that whole winning culture carried on. Well, I was way back in '73, and I was experiencing it for the first time. And it was almost a mystical experience for me. I mean, I played well. I think I had 4 goals that game in the championship, but I still feel like I was playing catch up. These guys, they just transformed in front of my eyes. And it was like, what am I seeing here? And I'll never forget, they interviewed the coach, and I have the quote somewhere. I don't think I put it in the book, but they said, I quoted the guy. I didn't have the article in the book, but I quoted their head coach, and he said something like, those Long Island guys, there are different players in the championship game. And that captured it for me. And that's what Rhodes, he just pulled me aside, and he just looked at me, and he said, now you know why we win, don't you? And I knew immediately what he was talking about. It was like, it just gave me chills. And it just felt like I was part of something special. And it always stuck with me.
I got a question. It might be I didn't read the book or whatever, but the book obviously is Vintage Lacrosse, right?
Vintage Lacrosse, yep.
The guy on the book is you, obviously?
Yeah, on the cover. My dad took that. He was kind of an unofficial photographer for the team. A number of those 73, 74, 75, 76, those pictures, team pictures, my dad took. And so this is my favorite photo that he took of me. It was up on the island. I forget who we were playing. So, yeah, that's me on the cover.
It says, funny, you're 22. You're like Spallina's number, Gary Gates' number. You're the guy that had 22 before. I want to know if Gary Gates stole your number. That's pretty incredible. I'm looking at, that's pretty interesting. I'll tell you one thing. I got to admit, you're not done them into your legs, but those are some pair of legs. I thought Vinny had good legs. You're sorry, forget it.
Hey, well, let's give credit where credit is due. You know where I got that 22 from?
Where?
Jimmy Lewis.
Okay.
Oh, that's incredible.
That's why I wore it, because he was the great, and that was my first hero growing up in high school and college, and so we wore 22.
So he had not been on long. He had stopped playing for Long Island by the time you got there, because he played for Long Island.
Well, I don't remember that. I remember he played when I got to Carling in '71. The guys told me that he played at some games with Carling, and he was stationed. This was funny to hear about this. He was stationed somewhere down in the south, and he would fly into Baltimore on he flew fighter jets. They'd fly him in. Somebody would pick him up at the airport, and they'd have his equipment for him. He'd play for Carling, then he'd leave, and that was in '70. That was my senior year of college. So I get to Carling, and they told me that story. Anytime he played Long Island, I didn't know about. So that must have happened much later. He was a couple years older than me, so I just thought he retired.
Hey, Dick, how tall were you? I mean, I'm looking at this picture. I never played with you. I never really saw you in person. You look like you're about 6'4" here. I mean,
Yeah, I wore platform shoes. No, I'm 6 foot.
okay, yeah. What
Yeah.
shoes were you wearing in the? They didn't have Nike back then.
That's actually an interesting question that you observed that, because that was a big deal for me. Back then,
You mean, hold on, Dick. I get criticized. You mean I actually asked a good question? I get killed by the experts.
He feeling good. Hey!
I'm really glad you asked that question, because I always felt like I had an advantage. Most guys wore molded soled cleats, but back in those days, and I had some closeness with the Baltimore Colts. Raymond Berry and Don Shinnick, these are all before your time. They ran Fellowship of Christian Athlete camps, and I would go to those camps. That's how I met those guys. And Raymond Berry was a hero. I always wanted to be wide receiver. But a lot of the pro football players would wear a shoe called Rydell XPs, and they had screw-in cleats. And on grass, I had a great advantage over molded sole defensemen, because as long as your ankles are strong, and fortunately mine were, you could cut and really cut. So thanks for noticing that. That's what they were, Rydell XPs. They were super light shoes, very thin leather, but they were really good.
And did they have a white stripe, or they had a white? I think it was like, white. I see. They only had
like
black. They had one kind back. It was like one color. They didn't have many colors. It's like,
No,
awesome.
yeah, it was like a little triangle, and it had a hole, an eyelet hole when you put the laces through, and you could also change the cleats. Now I got to tell you, all that ended when I got to Long Island, because we all played in sneakers because of the AstroTurf field, which was Vinny. You'll remember this. That first AstroTurf field was like playing on a parking lot, wasn't it?
That first AstroTurf field was the second installed AstroTurf field in all of the United States. First the Astrodome, and then the AstroTurf, and they never replaced it for so many years. When I played in college, they finally replaced it. But that was like running on. It sounded like a boardwalk when you ran on it, but it sounded like there was just plywood underneath there or something. But you could really, shoot some bounce shots. But I always wore sneakers when I played on that turf. I never would wear any kind of cleat or studded kind of shoe on that turf. It was too flat,
Yeah. Yeah. Alan Lowe got me into wearing those. You remember those coaches' shoes that had ripples? They were the ugliest things in
Yes,
the world.
the guys
They
used
had
to wear
side
that.
ripple.
Yeah.
Well, when
Yeah.
it rained, we would wear that. Alan Lowe got
Yeah.
me into those, and they were the ugliest things, but they worked in the rain.
That's what they used to,
always
my
made one
first year at Hofstra, that's what they issued us. My first year at Hofstra, they issued us those shoes. I put those things, and it was like, those things had been worn by 5 guys before me. You had to like turn them in after the season, and I was like, these things are a wreck. I went and bought my own. I was like, forget it, but we weren't very spoiled back then, it was like you had very little uniform-wise and everything else, You had to make things last.
Hey, Dick, I was noticing something else. I know you're going to laugh at me here again. Back in the day, I don't know if you had a brine stick. Brine didn't come out then. There has to be an STX.
Yeah, I started with STX because that was the only thing they really had, and after a couple of years, I switched to Brine. But that one in the picture is an STX, I
I
believe.
noticed this tick because the pocket when they had the leather back, it was very hard. The leather was harder, and it didn't have much of a pocket. I could see the stick. That's not even a big pocket. That's a small pocket. Back then, the pockets, like today, everybody's cheating with the ball. I mean, if you had to check every stick today, there'd be violations. The stick is hanging down here. You hit the stick, the ball won't even pop out, like Vinny says.
Well, that was another thing. I was a little bit unusual in that regard, is I kept a very shallow pocket, and I couldn't break a pane of glass with my shot. I had no hard shot. Everything I shot, I was way inside, close to the goal. It was all placement. And if I shot from outside, it was on a fast run. Again, it was more placement than speed. Frazier and those guys all had deep pockets, and I just never learned to play with them. But here's something a throwback from Lewis's days. Lewis had a very flat pocket, and in a wooden stick, before they made the rule change, you could have the stop as high as you wanted to. I've got a stick right there somewhere.
There he is.
Look at that.
Original stick.
Yeah. But I would keep the pocket very shallow, and it gave me a very quick release. And then, of course, we'd cheat like mad on the stops. When they were wooden sticks, we'd make highly illegal stops because you could work the catgut. And then with these sticks, until we got caught, I would double stop them. So I had a lot of stick protection.
The old double stopper, Vin. He had the double stopper.
Well, some of the guys, back then, I know Postel used a very shallow pocket. He liked the, quick release. He was a quick release shooter. It was in and out of his stick. He shot, I don't know, I saw Tommy play at the end of his career. He still played a few years when I was playing. He coached and played. He kept the uniform on in case we needed him. He was still deadly on extra man, but he was so accurate and had such a quick release. It was unbelievable. And, the difference between a guy like him, the attackman, and it's funny that some of those attackmen use such shallow pockets when you would think they would want more of a deep pocket, but they didn't. And the midfielders used the deeper pockets. Like I know Stan Kowalski's was kind of deep, compared to Tommy's. Everybody's was deep because he used a tennis racket.
Yeah. Well, that's what I did too, Vin. And then Ron's was deep. And he had that whip thing going.
Yeah.
Frazier.
And he used it. It came in handy with his facing off too. I think the way he had his pocket strung. But it's funny because, like I said, the last year you played, I came onto the team the next year when I was out of school for a year, and I got to play a year with those guys that you played with, who a number of them are all-time greats and National Hall of Famers, whether Postel, Frazier, Kowalski, Mike Thurl, the list goes on and on. There's so many great ones. And people that don't know, the coaching tree of Long Island, you had Richie Moran was a coach at Long Island, and Jack Cayley was a coach at Long Island. Yeah, Richie was a coach at Long Island. Yeah. But there's a funny story about Richie, and they had too many guys one year, and Roadrunner, Richie Postel, he was unhappy about playing time, whatever, and this happened a lot back then, and he got unhappy with his playing time or whatever, and it was during a game, and he got in a little bit of a thing with Richie Moran and said, not getting in. He says, listen, you're gonna go. I'm the coach. I'm coaching the team. He says, if you don't like it, then hand in your equipment and leave. So Rhodes, he gets mad. He takes all his stuff off and he leaves. He comes back 15 minutes later. He goes, wait a minute, that's my equipment, he said. but Richie told him, turn in your equipment, and he took it off and left it on the sidelines.
That's from coaching college all those years.
Yeah, that's a Richie.
And it's funny because, I've always said Vinny is he's sort of like the bridge. He's a bridge from the way past. He was very young and had that opportunity to have that season to play with those guys who didn't, except for Postel. I think Postel played for a few more years, but I don't think Thurl or Stan, they didn't play past that 1 year that Vinny played with them.
Yeah, they were done.
But he did get those guys, and then he comes into his own contemporary years where Norman Engelke and Bobby Engelke and many others, and Matt Crowley and Randy Natoli, which are in his range, and
Yeah,
actually
Mike
gets
Grace.
to play with some others for a short period because they started expanding. John Driscoll and Brendan Schneck also played for Long Island, but then moved to North Hempstead when that started in like 1983 or something like that. So he bridges that, and then he bridges it. He has his all those years through the 80s and the success, and then he bridges it to when I'm coming out of school in the early 90s with Pat McCabe and Matt Panetta and then Joe Corello, and he bridges it into that group, and we recruit Darren and Kevin Lowe, Alan Lowe's sons, and we have success through the 90s. So it's like, this is what's incredible about Long Island. It just keeps going. It's like a snowball that just keeps growing, and it was nothing but success, and it was a vibe. You could definitely feel it. That's why I say, it really was a culture thing. Everybody was held to a standard. Nobody ever felt pressure to have to deliver. Maybe one day it was your day and you could shine if the lacrosse gods felt it to be that way. And another day somebody else would shine. And we just felt like we had enough talent that say, how do you want to guard us? Who do you want to take away? Because somebody's going to hurt you one way or another.
Hey, Dick, where can you buy the book for the fans? Like, can you buy the book anywhere?
Stephen, you want to respond to that? Because I think you
Yeah.
have some links. It's on Amazon.
There's an Amazon link. It's on Amazon where all the books get sold, and we're going to put up a link. We'll put up a link in the reels, and we'll put them up in the stories for people who want to check out the book and learn about some of these legendary players. I mean, these are characters. Another thing I wanted to ask you about that, Vinny got a little bit of juice on this, but you see, I always wonder today's kids whether they have as much fun. Those guys back then might have had too much fun. I don't know if you were involved in some of those, bus trips or road trips.
Bus
Things
trips.
that I've heard, those weren't regular bus trips, by normal standards.
Oh, you're right, Steven. They don't have fun like these guys. They don't have fun like Dick Bond. They invented fun. They got a lot to learn. Every kid should buy this book. Every kid out there should buy the book from Dick Bond. They got to learn how to enjoy the game. You see the parents on the side carrying the mothers are carrying their stuff to the game. 16, 17-year-old kids. The mother is carrying their equipment going to the game. Taking out second mortgages just so the kid can play the game.
That's a whole other story. But
So what were some of those bus trips like? What were some of those old days?
Oh, I tell you what happened on the Long Island bus trips. Stay on the Long Island.
Right, there you go. But you weren't a partier like that. Like there were some partiers there.
Well, it's funny, I felt very much a part of the team, but I never had liked the taste of beer, and everybody was, and we would go to these places when the trips down to Baltimore. They always had parties for us, so we didn't get back on the bus. Vin, I don't know if this was your experience or Steven's. We didn't get back on the bus till 1 o'clock in the morning, and then we had a 6-hour drive, and everybody was in the tank. And I wrote in the book, there's two guys that didn't drink, and one was Alan Lowe, and the other was John Phillips. So I always had somebody to sit with in the front of the bus. But Mike Thurl and all those guys, they were just crazy.
That's
and
my
I remember
guy from Levittown, man. I love Mike. I'm a Levittown guy, yeah.
I remember one night, and I wrote about this in the book, that we stopped at a rest stop because the toilet was just gone. I mean, it was like beyond destroyed. And so we stopped at this rest stop at about 3 a.m. on the Jersey Turnpike, and Cayley disappears, and he comes out of the restroom there, and we saw this bus of foreign nationals. It was like a bunch of Haitians or Jamaicans or something. You just knew they were international. And he walks up and he gets on there. He's got a beer in one hand and food in the other. And he gets on their bus.
got on the wrong bus.
We're just watching him. And we count 10 seconds. And he steps off the bus and he's looking around the parking lot like a lost dog. But yeah, those were some fun times. And I wrote about this in the book because I lived up in Connecticut. I would drive my car down to the Jersey Turnpike and stop at a rest stop, and they would come off of the Verrazano Bridge and get over to the Turnpike, and they would pick me up. So that morning at like 5 or 6 in the morning, we'd stop at the rest stop, and I could pick my car up and drive back to Connecticut. And then those guys all went on back to the island. It saved me an hour driving down to Hofstra, to pick up the bus. But those bus rides were crazy, and that's all I'm going to tell.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's so fantastic.
Steven, you mentioned different guys, and I was lucky enough to, go through a few eras of players there, some of the best, and a lot of winning seasons. But the real thread through that was John Phillips.
Yes.
I mean, John was, before you even, Dickie, he was with the club, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he ran it after, the MLL came into play, and that's kind of was the death knell of club lacrosse when the MLL came and all the top guys went to play in the pro league. But he
Had
was
you retired by then? Or
no,
did you-
he was still running the club because that was 2001.
No, you.
He was still running the club, right, Steven?
Yeah. No, but Dick's asking you. But Vinny played 2 years of MLL.
Yeah, no, I
Right.
played the first 2 years of MML, 2001, 2002 seasons. But Long Island continued, and actually 2003, I think, was that one. Didn't we go back and play for Long Island, Stephen, and we made it to the finals?
No, it was after that. I didn't go back to run around a little bit to like 2006, 5 or 6. Because I played MLL to 2004.
Okay, so at that time, the club was still going okay. It wasn't what it was, but it was still pretty good. And I know we played.
We went back.
Yeah, we went back. So I think the last season I played with Long Island was maybe 2005 or something like that.
Yeah, 2005 or 6, I think.
Yeah, wow. I need to think
You
about
guys
that.
need to write it down, man. Make a record.
Yeah, that was, and we actually made it to the finals and lost in the finals that year. Last year I played, but John Phillips was still going. He held it together through a lot of different coaches and different players, and there were different teams popping up. Like Steven said before, North Hempstead popped up, which was a great team, started by Harvey Cohen, and I think also Whitey Henriksen. He really had influence in the New York AC team, but he also helped with North Hempstead. But Harvey took North Hempstead and ran with it because that 81, which was a tryout year for the U.S. team, our Long Island team was so stacked, especially, at every position. But, when you're playing midfield and you want to get a run, and you're using 3 lines of midfields, we could have used 4 or 5 lines of midfields
right.
is what we had. So that's why Harvey ultimately was like, we're in the championship against Mount Washington in '81. We won that game fairly easy. I think we won like 21-12 or something. It was one of the few times they played the championship here on Long Island. We played it at Adelphi, and it just was hysterical because here we are, should be happy we're winning the championship. Guys are fighting in the box about getting in the game because guys were used to being, the guy on their team, who was played for Hopkins, who played for Cornell, all the powerhouses at the time, just not enough room.
Yeah.
So Harvey did the right thing in starting that team, which some of our guys went over to North Hempstead, and they were a very strong team for a long time too. So and then down south, Maryland. Mount Washington was, I guess, one of the oldest teams. I know Carling was an old team too, wasn't it? Was
Not that old. It used to be. They used to have another name. They changed to Carling. For 2 years they were Carling. Then they became Pyle for 1 year, and then they became Chesapeake.
Yeah, I was
they're
going to say Chesapeake.
Okay, so
Yeah.
which became Toyota, by the way. That
Right.
Yes.
Chesapeake became Toyota.
Now the coaches there was Fusting, Gene Fusting, one of those coaches, or he was at MLC.
No.
Who was at Carling?
Gene and I were teammates in '72 when we won. He was playing for us. In '71, he played for when we lost it in '71 to Mount Washington. But then a bunch of those guys jumped ship and they played for us. And Gene was and Chooch Turner and I were the starting attack
Wow.
in 72. Later on, Gene became coach at, I want to say 75 or 76. It's in the book. He became coach for Mount Washington. But our coach, and a coach I write a lot about, was Arlie Marshall. Do you remember him at all?
Of course, Ollie was my coach on
Well,
the
he was.
90 USA team.
That's right, USA team. Yeah, you would know him. Yeah, I loved Arlie because he was more than X and O's. He really was an affirmer and a very positive. You know, Flatley and Cayley, they were all business guys.
Yeah,
They was,
yeah.
You better perform, you know. But
Yeah.
Arlie would just build you up. And Chooch Turner and I came out of college, and we didn't, nobody knew who we were or anything. But Arlie said, I believe in you guys, and that's what I needed at the time. But Flatley and Cayley, man, you had to produce.
Yeah. Well, they were a little bit under pressure as coaches because when you have that many really good players, it's hard to keep everybody happy. It's almost impossible, really, and
Yeah.
and
Well,
there were guys who
there
stuck
was a-
around and some guys who were forced to leave because they just wanted to play. I couldn't blame them, but you just couldn't get the time.
Well, they had. I remember there was a lot of tension the years I played because you had a bunch of guys that were coaching upstate New York somewhere. I remember Walvogel and a bunch of guys, Billy Marino, and they couldn't come down for practice. They just show up at games either on the island or wherever we played. And a lot of the regulars were losing playing time, and so the rule was, I think it was stated at some point, we love you on the team, but we're going to play the best guys. And so you had this tension for guys who were away all during the week. They couldn't practice, but they would show up and play on the team. But
Right.
Flatley and Cayley said we're playing our best guys, and that's
Right.
what they did.
Yeah.
One of the things I was going to ask you about that because one of the things, for at least my experience on the team, you had a lot of times where some of the season games, when you got to the semifinals of the championship game, obviously you were playing very competitive teams, but there were a number of teams that, they didn't have a chance. We were drubbing some teams, and you weren't really getting that competitive of a game. But what was really competitive when we did have a lot of guys in particular years was the practices. Were just there were so many good guys where we just played up and down. You really enjoyed going to practice on a Wednesday night or a Thursday night at Hofstra just to split the team that we had up and play because it was really, really top players. And that was probably more competitive than 80% of the games we played. Was there good attendance in some of those years when you were playing for splitting it up and play like that?
Oh yeah, you had, I loved it as an attackman because you had great defensemen every year coming in. I had some of the old guys that were there in '73, but then the new guys. I remember Walvogel and Thurl showed up at some point, and some really really good players that would play on that. Plus, they would always line up. We played Cornell in a full game. It wasn't a scrimmage. It was a preseason game, but we played it under game conditions. I write in the book about Chris Kane, how he stripped me, and I thought, I'm going to teach this young whippersnapper a thing or two. And he took the ball away from me. He was down the other end of the field. I went, whoa. And Chris and I have remained friends, but I always tell him about the first time. But we would play Cornell. We played Hofstra every year. Mm-hmm. And back when Howdy was a coach, you only ran a zone defense.
Right.
And I had never played, and I remember Postell used to get so mad at me because he'd say, "Dickie, stop dodging! Stop you dodging, you dump!" Yeah. And I had more ego than I had skill, and I said, "I don't care if they back up. I'm going to beat them both or beat three guys." And Postell, but Howdy would run that zone defense. But we had good preseason games, Stephen. And so we did have ways of finding a lot of competition. But you're absolutely right. The competition on practice nights is stiffer than a lot of the teams we played.
Yeah, I got some questions, some personal moments. Just a couple of quickies that you could answer on a short thing. What was your greatest moment in lacrosse? Personally, your greatest moment that you had in lacrosse?
Wow.
One of them. I know you had a lot.
Yeah, no, a couple of things. I remember scoring a goal against Long Island when I came dodged from the top, and I forget the goalie's name, McCowan something. Anyway, it was in that '72 championship, and I hit the far side pipe on the run because that was my home team. We were the home team at Norris Field, and so they were cheering for us. After that, when I played for Long Island, they were always cheering against us.
Yeah.
But I love playing it. So I'd say a great moment was just the moments we played at Norris Field. I never minded that the championships were in Baltimore. Now you could say, well, yeah, you're from Baltimore, but the Baltimore crowd, that '74 championship game, which by the way is another favorite all-time moment. That's when we were down 2 goals with less than a minute in the game and no stalling rules, and we still won.
Wow.
And that's when Bruce Arena stole the ball away while their attack came down and scored. And no, Alan Lowe scored to bring us within 1. Bruce Arena scored to tie it up, and Ron Frazier scored in the overtime. So that would have been another one of my all-time favorites.
So how many club championships did you actually win?
1-3 played. One, no, 73, 74, no, 1-4. One 72, 72 with Carling, 73 and 74 with Long Island, and then 78.
I did, but now
So 1-4 altogether.
What it did.
I tell you, what really bugged me out was, and I've told Rule about this for a long time, that when he retired early, and it wasn't until we got Barroza in at goalie in '78 did we. I mean, we had Marty Carroll, we had John Calamari, good goalies, and they did a great job covering. Marty Carroll played out of his mind a couple of those games, but we lost in '75, '76, '77. And then '78 in Barroza's rookie year, we won again. That was my last year. So 4.
Mm-hmm. 4. See, Vinny might have the record. I think Vinny's got like 10.
I can't touch Vinny. Vinny's in a different stratosphere.
Yeah, I was lucky to be on a lot of good teams. Let me tell you. And the truth is, you know, there were years where I thought we would. You know, we really had great battles with MLC mostly in the early '80s. They had tremendous teams, and Ollie Marshall was coaching them at that time. And you know, we had some great battles with them, and then Mount Washington had a resurgence in the '90s, and Skip Lickfist was coaching them, and they came on.
I remember Skip. I played with Skip.
Yeah. And so, you know, the rivalries, it was really very few teams that could break through in that, you know.
Well, the Southern teams had 3 teams that could make it at different times, and Long Island was really favored for a number. Bryan knocked us out of the only championship game in all my years I didn't play in. Bryan beat us in the semis, and I think that was '77. But other than that, if you wanted to play for the best, you played for Long Island. That was it up north. But down south, you had 3 or 4 different options.
Yeah, no, there was some great teams from the south that, like I said, had runs and tremendous players just like we did. So it was always a challenge. But you know, when Postel passed away, at his wake, somebody brought a framed caricature of him, and him calling out somebody's name who he always got wrong. So they had him repeating the guy's name 5 different ways in the thing. But in the right-hand side of it, they had the years he coached at Long Island, and his record was like, I don't know, it was like 105 and like 7, something like that, and eight of I think he coached 8 years. All 8 years we made it to the finals, and we won half of them, I think. So you know, what an incredible run we had when he was coaching.
I probably write more about Tommy. I write in the book that Tommy was like having a coach on the field. He didn't have a lot of patience with me, I guess because I was a Southerner. But man, I write more about him. And then in the South, I don't know, Vinny, if you remember Dennis Townsend.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Dennis was like my he was like what Postel was up north, Dennis was in the south. So I write a lot about those guys. And Stephen, I just want to say one other thing. Vinny, the Sombrados to me are like what Frazier was in the late '60s, early '70s, was the transitional name, and Sombrado was a transitional name through the '80s and into the '90s. You guys spanned those generations. Stephen, you talked about that a little bit earlier, but I just wanted to say it. And my book was not about your generation, and I wish people would write more about yours because I missed it. I was gone, but you guys were around. You have a great history. I had a little bit of a history in the '70s. You have a huge history with, would you say, 10 championships, 11?
Yeah, yeah.
Anyone?
I actually have 5 club championships and then 2 MLL championships. So
You got to write it, man.
7 out
Write
of
it out.
14. 7 out of 14.
Yeah, well, listen, we might have numerous championships, but there's only one guy on this podcast that's undefeated in all his years at club lacrosse. He's a national champ at Nassau Community, and he's undefeated in club lacrosse. Played for Long Island. Rob Smalley.
Yeah! Hey, Ross, tell him what Postal did to you. Tell him what Postal did to you.
Oh, my mother, back in the day, we had goose down jackets, right? And we only allowed one jacket. I'm one of 5 kids. And my mother bought me one jacket. He was smoking on the sideline in the winter at a game. He flicks the cigarette. It goes into my jacket. Remember? My jacket went, it fried up like that. It disintegrated. It disintegrated. I had one jacket. He never bought me another jacket. I'm not kidding you. He was rude, smoking on the sideline. It was incredible, man. It was a great honor to play with these guys or whatever. I had no business being on that team, but you know what? I willed myself to go out. I willed myself to do everything I could do to play, and I was on the team, and just around these guys was so much in life to play, and it's unbelievable. It really is. I don't even know how I got on the team. Or what I just showed up. Like Vinny always says, just show up.
Yeah.
Show up and try your hardest. And that's what I always did. I didn't have my parents coming to any games. I had to do everything on my own at Nassau Community College like that. I knew nothing about the game. I started in college, never played in high school, nothing, 0. And I just forced myself to go out for the team, and I met great people. And that's why I'm with Vinny, and they pick on me every day, so I'm getting used to being picked on. So I will tell you, Dick, one day you're going to look up, and I said this to Vinny, and I'll be a head coach somewhere in the game. And the reason why I say that, I've listened to Vinny Sombrado stories for 5 years, every night for 6 hours. I'm actually snoring and sleeping. I can coach right now, Division I lacrosse, and give me 3 to 4 years, I win a national championship.
Just get us a summer league title. We put the summer league team.
Now you see, he's talking all this stuff.
Right.
We made him the head coach of the Pond Boys Summer League lacrosse team at Caniac Park, and he froze up. He froze up as the coach the other day.
1-0.
We won, but I had to take over. Stephen was playing. Stephen was playing with the college guys. I was there. I'm the general manager. Next thing I know, I had to step in. Smalley choked up. He didn't last. He lasted about, I don't know, 5 minutes.
I think he's gonna have a better week this week. For all of those, Palm Boys are back in action Wednesday, 8:00, taking on the Seahawks. We'll have to see how we do. But that's another thing, we got involved in training and with college, all different age guys, geezers, college guys out of high school, the whole thing. And so we decided, we used to do it in an indoor place in the winter. And then we said, you know what, the Long Island Metropolitan Lacrosse League, gave us a team. They were gracious enough to get us a spot in there, and we brought, we have this mixture of guys, and it's the breeding ground of trying to. Our thing is like trying to actually recreate that culture, and really give those guys, those players, that feeling and that association of how to play the right way. Because, for me, I played for Tom Postel in college. I knew him when I was young when Vinny was playing with him. So it was a privilege he gave me a tremendous opportunity for my life and for school. And even after I had finished and I went in and played, in the pro indoor and was playing club, I went back to coach with him just to be around him and watch him. And there's nothing like watching a film with Tom Postel. Watch Tom Postel break down a film. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Hey,
and you'll
Dick,
really learn the game.
Yeah. Do you think the guys, I know I'm going to get kicked back on this and I'm okay with it. The fans are going to love this. Do you think the old timers could play in this era and be as successful as they were? I mean, because the game is so fast now and it's changed. I mean, just your opinion?
Yeah. One of the most enjoyable parts of writing the book was at the end. I talk about what I love about today's game and a few things that I don't love about it. And I think great athletes, I'm told guys like Dick Finley was one of the greatest athletes ever to come out. That was before all our times. I think they would figure out a way. Having said that, the game is played at such hyper speed now with such incredible talent. One of the things I write about in the book that I don't like about today's game is the death of riding, because riding was a big part of the game. But you've got long sticks. I'll do replay 5 times of a long stick in a ground ball fight, in a 50-50 ground ball fight with a 6-foot pole, the way these guys can handle. And I think the talent and the speed, and not just running speed, but the speed of the game, the transition from defense to offense, it happens at hyper speed. And it's like it makes our era almost the dark ages. Having said that, I think the best athletes from our era would figure out a way and would excel. I'd like to think that anyway.
I have an interesting take on that too, and this would actually be fun to do. It would be a fun thing if maybe in an off season they would actually do this. It's unquestionable that the players today are bigger, physically bigger, and trained better. You see other sports, like I saw Rick Barry was arguing, saying, well, if I had the access to the training and the knowledge that the guys have, I would be bigger and stronger back then. So it's unfair to say I didn't have the training and you want to put somebody with the training. But I actually think the evolution of the game, the equipment makes a difference. You showed you showed those old sticks there. Let's do a PLL game and give them those Betty Crocker oven mitts that you were wearing and those sticks. And you tell me and watch the game and see how the game looks. It won't look like you're watching on TV today. The equipment changed the game in terms of the skill level, because of all the things you said with a small pocket. Now, you used to have to sacrifice the pocket to maybe get a quicker release and get that throw out faster. Now you could have a deep pocket and it still has that quick release because the meshes are so good. So every part of the game has improved technologically with these sticks. So I do think athletically they're better, but trust me, that equipment makes a huge difference. If guys could have back then would have been playing with some of this equipment lighter, it would have looked a lot better also. So
the second and third midfielders are way better today. Don't get me wrong. Like Dick is right when he's saying you guys got definitely good points. The way I also see it is you got the second midfield and third midfield are much better today than they ever were. Like years ago, the Gates and all you guys, Dick, you guys from now, I say you have like 3-4 good guys. Now you got 6 to 10 good guys that are completely off the charts. Second midfield, third midfield, and they're coming out of the game, which, like you said, I like that word, hyper speed. That's going to be my new word that I stole from Dick. Hyper speed. Very good word. I love it. And that's the way I see it, Ben. What do you see, Ben?
No, well, I clearly, it's just a question of repetition. These kids have had so many more repetitions at their age than we ever did. You had a lot of threes. Not that some of them aren't 2 or 3 sport athletes, but guys come when I played in high school, at least, you didn't pick up a stick till the season was going to start. You didn't really play in the off season. You didn't have a lacrosse stick in your hands in the fall. You didn't have it in the winter. You waited till the spring came, and then you played, and then maybe you played a little bit in the summer. these kids today, they're all there was some summer leagues, but not like today. Between tournaments and summer leagues, you can play 52 weeks a year pretty much at this point. So anything somebody's doing 52 weeks a year, they're going to be better at it at some point. The thing is, what I see at least is, like Dick said, the better athletes would have figured it out. I see the game as an IQ game now. I see the better players are separating themselves because they have better field awareness. They can do they just know how to fit and play with other guys better. Skill level is negligible, the difference between the best and going down to, like Small says, the second, third, fourth tier guys, the skill level is negligible. I always said, we go to a lot of the games, Dick at Hofstra still. We have the suite. Smalley had a suite up there, my buddy and teammate Jim Metzger had a suite, and Chris Hine. So we're lucky. We always go upstairs and we sit inside even when it's cold, and we watch these games. And I remember when I first came out, when I was playing in college, but when I came out of college and I'd go back and watch games, when you'd watch teams warm up, you could basically pick out the 5 best guys on each team in the warm-ups. They just looked different. How hard they shot, the way they were handling a stick, and you'd say, oh, that's got to be. If they had warm-ups on, you didn't see a number, you say, that must be that guy, that must be this guy, because of how good they handled the stick. Today, I watch these kids warming up, and I'm like, look at this guy, look. I go, wow, who's that kid? And they're like, he doesn't even play, he doesn't get in games. I'm like, really? He looks pretty damn good to me, So what is separating that guy who's basically, I hate to say a bench warmer, but he is a bench warmer. It comes down to, like you said, you pointed to it, it's the IQ. Is a guy's going to get on the field, because I always said this to guys, and I tell the younger guys today too. Yes, the speed of the game, the hyper speed, the whole bit. But one thing is for sure, whether it's in 1970 or it's in 2025, nobody can move faster than that ball in the air. Nobody can run as fast as a ball. So if you have the right guys who know how to play right, a lot of that running and speed that you see, you can take that out of a game from a team if you know how to play right. If you don't get yourself trapped trying to play guys out by the midfield and they run by you because they have speed. You pack it in, or you do what you said before, Howdy Meyer style, play a zone. See how they react to that. But if you have the guys who have good mentality and have an ability to adapt in the middle of a game, those to me are the stars. Guys, they have great athletic ability and all, but let's say a team has a good game plan to shut you down. How are you going to adjust to that? Are you a one-trick pony? Are you going to say, well, they put this guy on me, I guess I'm out of the game now, Or are you going to figure, do I come off a pick? Do I do it in broken situation? Do I try to get the ball up near the midline if I'm an attackman before the middies even get in play so there's no backup? That separates great players from really good players.
Hey,
I agree.
Dick, just very quickly, you can go over, just do it quick, because we were talking about it before, but I don't know you that well with your book. It has to do with, and I know you're very, you don't talk about yourself. What's that called, Vinny? He's not your personal inventory, like, for the fans. The accolades that you had, were you an All-American? I'm sure you were, or something.
I was barely, back then they didn't have Division 1, 2, 3. They had major colleges and little colleges, and so I was a little All-American. And like today, they have first, second, third team and honorable mention. And I was the lowest the totem pole. I was an honorable mention, little All-American. And my only sympathy with that is the fact that I think this is true. Postel was never an All-American, which is an absolute joke. And I figured, I don't know how that happened.
Like they didn't have it. They didn't have first. I understand what you mean. It was all brand new. They had to create it. Wow, that's crazy.
I was the lowest of the low, so which made it really fun when I got to the big game and could play against, because most of the teams had first teamers in attack, and in the first midfield. And so you're playing against first team big school All-Americans back in those days. And back in those days, they only had 3 All-Americans for each position, maybe 4 for midfield, but 3 attack, 3 defense. That's all you got.
Yeah.
As first team and 1 goalie.
Wow. So you're being scrutinized really hard. Like today, they have so many All-Americans, like that. So.
Well, it's fair today because there's so many more people playing and there's such parity in the game. Back when my sons played, they were delighted to be the first kids out of the state of Florida to get recruited at Hopkins. Back then, if you weren't from the island, upstate New York, or Baltimore, those Division I schools wouldn't even look at you. And yet look at now at any roster, any good team, and they have guys from all over the country.
Yeah.
Stephen, you saw my thing. My grandson was playing up at Yale New Haven this weekend. He's from California, and they have Division I kids that are coming from way out there and all over the place.
It really is crazy. It really is crazy. I mean, their kids are coming from everywhere. They had team from Oregon out there. They had team from Carolina out there. So they are. That's a great point.
I don't know how they afford it. This is the most expensive sport of all time. Coming from California, you got a helmet, you got spikes, you got to pay for the hotel. They're up. I don't know how they do it.
I talked to a mother last summer. I was there in Baltimore with my grandson, and she was from California, and they weren't leaving Baltimore for the whole summer. They were just going from one tournament to the next. And, thousands of dollars spent. You're absolutely right, Rob. So it's an expensive sport. I tell you, though, getting back to the style of the game, one thing I wrote in what I don't love about today's game is I wish that dodging was more of a part of the game. And part of it is the IQ that Vinny was mentioning. The ball moves so fast, and they can exploit the slightest delay in sliding. But I wish they could do more because to me, the greatest thrill of all is to watch a dodge. And it's very difficult to dodge. The slide packages are so sophisticated. And one of the things I love is the shot clock is forced the dodging a little more, especially in the PLL. The shot clock as short as it is, you still get the lightning ball movement and body movement, but I just wish there was more dodging like back in the days.
Yeah.
I made my whole biggest thing was I had a quick couple of first steps. I were guys that could handle, like Postel could, guys like that could handle their stick better than me and do a lot of things. Kowalski was very fast in the 100. But if you have a little bit of quickness and you can exploit that, in today's game, the slide comes so quick and the spacing, other than so you guys can respond to this and tell me if you think I'm full of stuff, but it just seems like the spacing in today's game is such that it makes it really hard to beat your guy. And if you do, you got a 2-man game that'll clear out and give you a little more, but there's just not enough spacing allowed to let guys have more than 3 seconds to dodge. And I don't want to hold the ball all day, but I just wish the dodging was a little bit more part of the game today.
I think that you're right. I do think that that's due to I think that like you said, the defensive packages have been coached so much better than back in the day. The schemes, but what always beats that is good ball movement. Like if you're moving the ball better than the defense, then sooner or later you're gonna get a bad closeout on somebody, and that's when your dodge is gonna come in. So the days of the one guy announcing to the world like, "Here I come, I'm going against the guy," he's immediately double teamed in today's game. But you really have to make your dodges off that ball movement now. The defense make it even more important to do that. It's just
that's why Vinny picked Princeton this year. I said, Vinny, come on. You've been playing for 100 years. You're known as the Iceman. You got all these names. The Ever Ready Battery, the Silk. He's got 100 nicknames. I said, Vinny, who's going to win? So I like to pick his head. Vinny, you didn't do it. He says to me, and this was like 6 games before. They were just starting to play. He goes, if I had to pick, I don't know, but I like the ball movement from Princeton. They're moving the ball better now than they did all year. The movement of the ball was moving. So I watched it in the corners. I was watching, and he was 100% on. Now you don't know who's going to win, but the ball movement was tremendous at Princeton this year. Maybe the best I've ever seen. What about you, Vinny?
Yeah, I mean, when I saw them in that Ivy League tournament championship game against Cornell, and they just were on fire, and I said, hope they didn't waste this as their best game, because if they could play at this level, I don't think anybody's going to be able to beat them. They just were so strong. The goalie was great. The face-off guy was great. The way they played offense, the way their defense came together, everything came together at the right time, and they were fairly healthy too, in terms of players that were a little nicked up during the year. They got healthy at the end. But that was just a lot of credit to that coaching staff, both the defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, and of course Madelon. I think he did a masterful job of bringing that team to what they were at the end of the season. That would have been a tough team to beat for anybody. Not only this year, I'm talking about previous year's champs and all, would have a hard time beating that Princeton team, because they had it all. I mean, they really did. And but I like to get back to something, we're talking about in terms of, I'm watching lacrosse so many years and seeing the evolution of the game and evolution of the rules. And when I was in college, I should say, there was 6 sticks on the field, six long sticks. My first year, nobody even was really using long stick guys. It was 3 defensemen, 3 middies stayed on and played defense. Then by the time, only 3 years later, somebody said, well, these long stick guys makes it harder to score. There's no rule against putting more of them in. Next thing you know, you had 6 poles on the field. We mentioned them before. Jack Emma, he used to, and every out of bounds was a horn, so you could substitute.
That's right.
So here you are, you come down, you maybe had a fast break, you missed the goal, horn, 6 poles come out, He used 9 poles one time, Jack Emma, on riding. If they lost the ball on offense and it went out of bounds, he'd blow the horn and use a 9-man long stick ride on teams, because he was an innovator. He took advantage of what the rules were. So then the rules changed, and then now it's gone down to where you can only have 4 of them on. And, it's just, I look at it as, like a chess game. If I was coaching in college, depending on the roster I had, how strong or weak my roster was, I would just go, I've noticed that over the years, everybody goes into like Bill Tierney had great success with that slide defense that he had. Force the guy down the side, get the double. They only have 2 real options, throw it behind or turn out and throw it back up top, so the defense knows exactly where to go. How do you beat that? So how do you, to me, I say, keep guys on the field. Don't let them substitute the defensive guys in. If you're going to take your guys off and let them substitute as you're substituting, you're playing into their hands. So if I'm playing as an underdog, and chances are it's going to be tough for me to win, I change my whole style. I would just let them have fun and say, stay on the field and play up and down. You have a chance to go, I don't care if you're an offensive midi, what they think you call offensive midi, defensive midi, whatever it is. Just keep playing, because if you could create odd man situations, that's the name of the game. That makes the game easy when you get these 5-on-4s, 4-on-3s, stuff like that. And I don't see enough.
Somebody off sides.
No, but I don't see enough coaches who can play good enough to lose a lot. Say, you know what? I'm gonna, these are the kind of players I get. Maybe that's the best I could do recruiting, but I'm gonna coach them differently and try to take this team out of their comfort zone, and play it a little differently. And that, that's what I would do. Clear away from the box. Don't let their guys get on. I'd let guys, we did it out of necessity one time in summer league. We only had 1 defenseman come to a game, and we were playing 9 guys with short sticks and 1 defenseman, and we still won the game. Because we were saying, whoever gets it, just go over. Just make sure 3 guys stay back so we don't go offside. But we were getting fast breaks all the time. The other team didn't know what to do. They thought we had to go run for substitutions, but here we are, we're running down the field, and we're scoring while they're running off. So, I guess maybe a coach, there's the fear factor. Coach does that. They might say the guy lost his mind and that, he's desperate and he's trying to do something innovative, but he really shouldn't. Coaches guys up. But I don't know. I just think that I would change the tempo of games if I was coaching, if I didn't have the personnel. Because not everybody can match up personnel-wise. Some of these teams are so loaded with players, it's hard, to beat them, unless you come up with something real serious type of game plan.
Yeah, I think some of the things, Vin, like you said, the what they do now actually is a race to win the substitution game. It's like a relay race where they're trying to do it faster than the other team to create that advantage rather than just stay on the field.
Yes.
It's like the easy way would be to just stay on the field. But
how do you guys feel about the talking about the modern game versus the old game? Vinny, you were midi. Steven, did you play midi or attack?
I played midi as well.
Rob, what'd you play?
Defensive midfield.
See, there he said it, defensive midfield.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about middies only playing one way? Because back in our day, every midi played both ways.
Yeah.
Hondo talks about that. Is that the two-way player, Dick?
Exactly. Yes, but I mean that's it. Look, I was saying it to a lot of kids this week actually up at Yale. It is a dying art form, but I enjoyed playing from one restraining line to the other restraining line. And I said, because of the team I was watching, they lost the game 7-5 and they failed to clear the ball 5 times in a row. And I said, you see, when you have players that can play both ends of the field, and if you can successfully get the ball out of your defensive end and have it on offense and maybe create some breaks, and maybe you can play offense
through the box.
Yeah, and maybe you could play offense, and if the ball gets turned over, you could be back and slow down a break that the other team could have. These are all things that coaches would look at and say, this is very valuable to winning and losing lacrosse games. It might not always show up as 5 goals or 4 assists, but it's impactful in the game. Ground ball.
I hear PLL talking about he's a great two-way player.
Yeah.
Is that lip service or is that what they're looking for in the PLL? Two-way guys that can play both ways.
They don't have true two-way guys, though. I think they have guys that are defensive midfielders that they say can be capable enough to create something, or maybe an offensive player who could maybe sometimes be tough to play defense, but they don't do it as a true two-way where a guy, like I would say, if I was in a game where we weren't having much success.
If I was you guys, I'd be offended by that. As a midfielder,
right?
If I was a midfielder,
well, I think about it this way: in certain games, if I wasn't having a good game offensively, or if I felt like I would like to go out of, like I use the indoor term, go out the back door. I'd like to go on defense first, and then go from defense to offense. You don't have to always go from offense to defense. Like you can do it both ways. So depending on how the game is going, I never minded going out of the box to go defense first, even, and then stay to hopefully maybe create a fast break going the other way. So they won't do that, though. You don't watch a PLL. They're not putting one of those offensive guys and chucking them out of the box as a D-midi. They just don't do it. What do you think, Vin?
Well, I talk about a lot, the transition of a guy because of a two-way play can make transition. But the truth is, some of these poles, they're almost as good as the short stick guys coming down the field. In the initial rush, they are. They're great in transition. There's guys that can really handle sticks and they're dangerous shooting. In the PLL, from 2 even, they can shoot from 2, those guys. Yes, there's something to that. But in the long run, I don't think you benefit from that. I just don't. I just think that, I see, somebody's got to sit down and go through these films and do an analytic on it and what created turnovers, how they created fast breaks, and teams got goals because you had your offensive players playing defense, or vice versa. You caught the other team that's not used to playing. You always hear when, as soon as the announcers see in a game an attackman goes over or something, because maybe on a ride, right away, oh, they got an attackman trapped. Like the guy, all of a sudden, the guy is like, he forgot how to run. You got an attackman trapped down there. It's like, take it easy. The guy's an athlete. These guys are athletes. That, to me, that would be insulting. I mean, you're there to play the game. I just would, as a player, I like to try to be good at every part of the game. I just think that they should train these guys at every aspect of the game. Give them some knowledge.
That's not happening. Exactly.
Because even if you take a guy who 99% of the time plays offense, right? And you say, the guy's a pretty good, he's a good athlete. Obviously, all these guys are athletes. And you say, you put him and he gets stuck on defense. I'll put it in quotes. He's stuck on defense. Now, that guy might be pretty good at staying on a guy. He could maybe guard a guy one-on-one a little bit. The thing where they're totally lost is team defense.
Yes.
There's no concept of team defense. Where's my help going to come from? Where should I be pushing him down? What should I be doing? In that guy's mind, he's so not used to doing it. He's just worried about getting smoked by the guy running by him one way or the other. Right. Instead of saying,
5-on-5.
Yeah, you turn to your left. You say, listen, I'm making him come this way. Help me when he comes. He's going to probably get ahead of me.
Going left. Goalie's got to talk.
Yes, right. So that's team defense is a whole nother matter. In every sport you see it. You look at these games like the Knicks, we just went crazy over the Knicks winning in first time in 53 years. And you watch how the Knicks play and the defense that they play, the way they play team defense, that's what got teams so confused. And vice versa. I was watching a guy break down just the last game, and he said, they're like, why is it they're guarding Brunson from half court? Why are you guarding him out there? Especially when he gets going. You're better off dropping in, and then play him from the inside out instead of trying to, you're saying, well, let him work to get to his spots. Yeah, but he's a master at that. He showed you, he scored over 40 points. What, are you going to keep doing it till he has 50, 60? I guess they figured that was the best way to try to contain him, but I don't see it. I
take seconds off the clock at what it does, right? He would get 50. He's a guy, they tried everything like that. I see all the experts. But it does take seconds off the clock. It moves the clock to 24 seconds. You're right, though, Vinny. There's two sides.
Yeah, but like Dickie said before, you mentioned Howdy Myers in the zone, right? And he was one of the first innovators to use a zone in lacrosse. Well, Howdy's zone in the 60s into the 70s was workable because the stick skills weren't really there,
Right.
We had a couple guys out there that their stick skills were a little shaky. When you get 6 guys that can really bang it around, zones, you can't let some of these guys get their hands free from 12 to 14 yards anymore. Because they get their hands free from 12 to 14, they're beating goalies. And you better have, when you're playing a zone, you better have a good stopper. It works. I think it's great as a mix-in. I think there's good, especially now with a shot clock. I see teams, shot clock runs down to, let's not say where the guy's got to pick it up and just throw it to the corner. There's still enough time for a play. And the guy's pressing out on the guy. What are you pressing out on the guy for? He's got to go to the goal. And then he gets run by and scored on with 2 seconds on the clock. Drives me crazy. It's like, why don't you just drop in?
Vin, the truth is, it goes back to Postel, and then you add the shot clock in. Zones work.
Yes.
Zones work. They do. This is why teams do them. The U.S. team lost to Canada the year when they didn't put Canada came in the championship game and world game, and they put a zone in. They surprised them with a zone in the championship game, and Canada won. The Princeton used a zone. Zones are effective, and now when you add the shot clock in, they become even more effective. Postel used to always say he'd get mad because this was when I was coaching with him, and I remember Pace was putting a zone in, and the ref, for whatever reason, he got crazy. He started putting the stall on the team started putting the stall on, and Postel went crazy. He was, he had, like Rob said, he had the cigarette going. He's like, Mr. Official, you gotta move the ball around on our zone.
Yeah.
It's not easy to get inside of it.
Yeah.
You have to work the ball. So, it's not like a man-to-man where you could just beat a man and maybe the defense gets sliding. Those zones, they're tough to figure out sometimes. Yeah. So, but they work. That's what, no matter what, it seems like they do work. Every team should probably have some package of a zone, whether it's when it's short on a shot clock or,
right.
So there's definitely times to institute those things and go back and forth how the game is going. Feel it out,
No, because when you at times when you play a zone, especially when you got a really good stopper, you got Larry Quinn in there or Sal Licasio in there and all, and you could say, most likely this is where we'll give the shot up from, and they know that that's like really where the shot's going to come from. Those guys are going to gobble it up. It's the ball movement that gets any goalie. Any goalie will tell you it's when they got to move side to side in the cage, when they got to turn their head behind. That's when they get lit up. But there's moments for all different. There's different strategies for different parts of games. Is all I could say.
I got my one question.
Go ahead, Smalls.
No, I was going to ask Dick. As we're getting late in the interview here, I always ask the questions. Kind of people laugh at me, but Dick, who was your hero growing up?
In lacrosse?
Yeah, if you don't know, that too, or maybe in life, start with lacrosse.
Well, Raymond Berry I mentioned for football, and I got to play a little bit of football, and I loved him. But Lewis back in those days, and then Rob, the guys that I wound up playing against, it is weird because they were sort of my heroes, and then I got to play with them. You know what I mean?
Like that's awesome.
Frazier and Postel, Dennis Townsend was a tremendous help to me. Some of the guys in Baltimore, those guys were like real life heroes because then I got to be on the same field with them. It's a little unusual, It wasn't
that's
pro
unbelievable
football.
to play with those. The way I see you right now, like you're sitting back, you came on, I didn't know you. You just look so comfortable when you speak. You're like E.F. Hutton. Everybody listens. You got that. You got a little. You're leaning back a little bit, like.
And now he's an author.
No, I'm saying this guy's got it. I have a lot of respect for this guy.
Let me tell you something.
Thank you.
I think it's great.
And you're giving your insight and kindness, and it's like you're so sure of yourself. If you could bottle that up and give it to a 21-year-old kid, I think
it's great you wrote the book. I think it was much needed, certainly for that era, because a lot of those guys are starting to not be around anymore, and to have pen to paper and have something in the archives that people can look and read about that, because it was the foundation for everything going forward for the 80s with Vinny and then the 90s with Vinny again and McCabe and all the rest, and going on to 2000 when we went MLL and they still played those few years after that. It's definitely, it seems like there's more things happening, like you'll see in Hollywood. There've been different movies that have featured some lacrosse here and there. They joke about some of the old ones because they look kind of lame and that, but then there's been some better ones. But who knows? Whether it's documentaries or whether it's feature films, there's a lot of stuff in the lacrosse world, as we know and we love, our life in the game and the journey and the camaraderie that comes along with it is something that is easy to write a book or a movie on, because there's just so much to go on. But
Well,
one of the things,
we're not getting any younger, and
right?
that's why I was. So I wish I had written it about 10 years ago, because doing this research on it, you look up somebody's name and the first thing you get is an obituary. But
Yeah.
I want to give my dad
I
my
didn't mean
dad
to
some
laugh.
I want to give my dad some props, because all the years I played, he saved every lacrosse article he could find, and I have
Wow.
hundreds, literally hundreds, and I put the best ones in the book, as they help tell the story, and that's how I could recount those games, because back then the only social media was the Baltimore Sun paper, and the New York Times covered, they give you about this much, so I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but Long Island lacrosse players were huge names in Baltimore. Maybe, I don't know if more so on the island, but because of the Baltimore Sun paper and that, again, our only social media, those guys became famous. But they would cover, sometimes they would cover the lacrosse as much as they would cover Baltimore Colts or the Baltimore
Oh,
Orioles.
it's interesting.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so those guys were household names. That's why, Rob, when you asked me about my heroes, I was reading about in the papers like I read about Johnny
Right.
Unitas.
And you're playing with some of them. It's like insane. That's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
So
Well,
you guys, you're on the island, and it's almost like asking the fish, what's it like to breathe in the water, because you're so
Yeah.
close to it.
Right.
I really count it a privilege that I grew up in Maryland and then moved to play at
Right, I
Long
got
Island,
you.
because I could see the difference in the style of play and in the culture
Unbelievable.
and the greatness that you guys have. It's almost easier for me to see as an outsider than you guys to see, because you lived there your whole life. And I just props
Great.
to Long Island culture and lacrosse.
That's awesome, man.
So one of the things
Dick,
we do as we wrap it up, go ahead, Vin.
I just have one more question. Um, when did you feel you were at your best as a player? When did when you really felt like the light bulb went off and you really understood how to play the game? The ins and outs of the game compared to
That's
just
that would be two different answers. I was really blessed with the quickness, and I got away with murder and not having the best stick handling as other guys, and I did not have a strong lacrosse IQ. So I think my first, second, and third years were my best years, and it's interesting watching guys going into the PLL. You see pro football players or pro basketball players, and lots of times they take a season or two. Not all of them. Some of them are just jump right into it. But I feel like in lacrosse, I could be off on this, but I feel like in lacrosse, at least for me, those first 3 years. But that was because of the talent and the confidence I had. Lacrosse IQ, I felt like I was way behind. That's why Townsend helped me in Baltimore, and then Postel and playing with the Long Island guys. I felt like I went from way down here to approaching. I never got up to their Postel's IQ, but that's what I had to grow. So ability wise, I felt my first 3 years, but IQ wise, I was playing catch up the whole time.
yeah.
All right, great.
And the best
I
players,
guess
you get both of them together. When you put the both of them together, that's when you're at your best.
I'll do
Yeah,
my
but then I
shout-
got too old and I lost my legs.
Yeah, that's what happens too.
I'll do my shout out first if you guys don't mind.
Go ahead, yeah, do it.
Also my
Yep.
last question, because I am an oddball. You guys know as odd as I am. I usually get into food and stuff, but I'll ask you one last thing. What's your favorite ice cream to eat?
Me?
Yeah.
Ice cream
Oh,
question.
jeez. You're going to love this. Vanilla.
No, I love it. I can tell you a crazy story. I never wanted my kids to eat chocolate, so I told them it was poison. When I was a kid, my daughter, I call her Mrs. Vanilla. She never ate the chocolate ice cream.
I think
Anyway.
Tillman liked vanilla too. Tillman was
I know.
vanilla.
That's a question I never expected to be asked.
Well, I'm a weirdo, so thank God there's weirdos in life, you know what
So
I'm saying?
so how we wrap up normally, we do our shout outs. You could shout out anybody. Rob, you want to go first?
I'll go first. I'm gonna give a shout out, to my wife Cheryl, who I'm so blessed to have. My 2 kids, Hannah, and my son Ryan. I got married very, very late in life, in my 40s. You know, I wasn't capable as a young man. You know, it took me long to grow up. You know, I'm still smelling my farts at 30. You know what I'm saying? So. But anyway,
Okay.
really kills me though. I'm blessed, and also I'm so blessed to have these guys.
I kill him.
I don't get along with Vinny a lot, but you know what? We got over it over the years and stuff like that. But no, these guys are great, and no, my son Ryan and my daughter Hannah, just unbelievable life that I have. I have the greatest life. You know, I don't know anything I would change. You know, I'm very blessed. They let me be me in life. You know.
There you go.
Anyway, what do you got, Stevie?
I'm gonna go, since we're on the Long Island Lacrosse Club theme. I'm gonna go to our longtime scorekeeper, Joe McConnell. He's out there. Joe McConnell. I don't know. Was he the scorekeeper when you were on the team, Dick? I'm sure you know Joe McConnell would do the score book.
I remember the name. Yep.
And yeah, he's still around. His son Butchie's around, and JD, they're around, and we see them every once in a while. But I haven't seen Joe, and we're thinking about him, especially he there's a guy who just, again, all contributors to the team. You know, Mr. Barossa, John. You know, the club is unique in that way that everybody can they can all pitch in, and they all had a hand in all of the successes. So that's my shout out to Joe. What do you got, Vin?
My shout out, I give a shout out to all the long-suffering Knick fans who waited 53 years for a championship, and we finally got it. They rooted them home. Boy, the energy in New York was off the charts. Those Nova Knicks, you know, they were phenomenal. The chemistry, you know, the things we talked about in the lacrosse world. Chemistry, team chemistry. This team, I heard something today, they're the first team that had 5 starters win a championship that none of them started with the Knicks. Not one of their starters started with the Knicks, the first 5. And that's the first team ever to pull that off and win a championship. So, and you got to give, you know, I mean, everybody looks at Brunson scoring and the things he does. He's an amazing leader, an amazing player. But the fact that the guy made financial sacrifices to build that team, to get the guys he wanted, and made personal financial sacrifices, and you know, look at how it worked out for him. The guy can name his price now, right? I mean, he's going to cash in a million different ways. But he had confidence in himself, and he stuck to the plan that I'm pretty sure his father laid out for him many years ago. That's a great, you know, to have your father sitting on the bench there in an NBA championship with you. It's just amazing. So my shout out, and I tip my hat to them, and I'm so happy that we got a winner in New York.
All right, Dick, you're up.
Well, a shout out. I want to shout out to you guys, thanking you for putting me on the air here. Will viewers have a way to link to the book? You said that earlier, Stephen.
We're gonna get some clips out and get that link up for sure.
Okay. Well, my shout out is to you guys for promoting lacrosse. I'm not sure if there's guys in Maryland doing this, but I feel like, you know, we all get to feed from it. So thank you guys for promoting lacrosse the way you do, and especially not just today's game, but the vintage game as well, because it's obviously meant a whole lot to us throughout our lives. So shout out to you guys. Thank you very much.
Okay, so you know we're gonna sign off, and I got a special treat because I'm gonna tag following this episode. We're gonna tag on a little segment I did with Alan Lowe's grandson, Lucas Lowe, and Luke Kavovit, who are heading off to play in the World Series of Lacrosse in a couple of weeks. So I got a little preview that I'm going to tack on
representing Florida, right, Stephen? They're representing Florida.
Representing Florida.
Florida,
Yeah.
they're down here.
Yeah, they're down there.
Yeah.
And
Where they go to school? Benjamin?
they,
Vinny?
one
Benjamin
goes to
School?
Benjamin. Luke Kavovic.
Alan Lowe's grandson goes to Benjamin.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
So
I did not know that. My son coaches down here. He coaches a team in Broward County, and I know they've played Benjamin. I don't know if they're on the regular schedule, but they have before. That's amazing.
all right.
Yeah.
Please send my greetings.
We will do that. All right. And the Pond Boys will be back in action Wednesday to see if Smalley can coach them to the second
I'm
victory.
going 2-0. That's it. Listen,
Yeah.
I got confidence, man. One
He's
thing the Lord
undefeated.
gave me, win or lose, I'm going in to win. That's how I met you guys, man. And everybody should hold on, right? Right, Stephen?
Yeah, we'll hold on. We'll sign off. You just stay right there, Dick, as we sign
make
off,
sure we
and
download.
we'll get another episode. We'll get another episode in there, and we'll see you guys hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
All right, guys.
See if I can.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, Three Guys, Many Games. We're back. We're branching out into something new and exciting. We got two young men here. I want to introduce my good friend Lucas Lowe and my man Luke Kavovic up there, dialing in from Florida for the big week. Let's see. Let me see if I can get you. Let me give you a little hand for these guys. Let's get a little. So what's up, guys? How's it going down there in Florida? Everything good?
Yeah, it's awesome.
So Lucas, a lot of people been wondering about the growth of lacrosse in Florida, and so you guys played. My understanding with the Stealth, you played in the a regional tournament.
Yeah.
And when was that? How did that go? How long ago was that?
That was it was during the school year. It was the World Series qualifiers. So it's like, it's it's teams you have to play in age, and it's really strict restrictions. And only two teams qualify from each region. So we're in like the South region,
Okay.
and we finished first, but two teams made it. So we would have a better seed than the second team.
Okay. All right. So listen, these are the most competitive teams in all of the country, And Luke, this coming month, the end of the month, this tournament is being held up in the north. Though you're going to have to travel, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's in where? Pennsylvania?
Pretty sure.
Okay. All right. And so I know that they came out with a schedule. Do you have an idea of who you're playing yet, Luke?
I think we're playing
I'll
like
give you
two-way.
Two-way. Two-way's a good Connecticut team.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with them a little bit. So that's a tough team. Let's see who else. I'm actually gonna pull it up for you. Sweet Lax. Okay, that's a very strong team. You guys are playing some strong teams here. You guys up for the challenge, Florida Lacrosse? What's up?
Yeah. Ready?
You ready to go? Who are your coaches, Luke?
Darren and Ryan Burton.
Okay, so you got some. You got Mr. Lowe as your coach. How's that down there, Lucas? When you're playing for your dad, is that a little different?
It can be pretty frustrating.
It can. All right, give us an example. Why does it get frustrating?
I don't know, like car rides home. If I don't play a good game, he gets on me about it.
Okay. Well, listen, there's a lot of dynamics there. Did you know that your father didn't play for his father in high school? You knew that, right? They actually played against each other. So that's a dynamic that happens. Look, I coached my son for a bit. It is a tough thing. Sometimes the coaches, when they're coaching their kids, they're harder on their own kids than they are on other kids sometimes. It's just, that's the nature of it. And, But your coaches have a wealth of experience. So I I had a number of coaches that were pretty hard, and a lot of teammates of mine, wouldn't shut off, and they weren't exactly listening. But these were high quality coaches. And I give this a bit of advice, and whether it's your dads, your uncles, or whether it's just another coach, I always say, don't listen to what, don't listen to how he's saying something. Listen to what he's saying. If you could tune out the delivery of the message, if it's coming off harsh, and you can just hear actually what the instruction is, more often than not, you're getting good information. It's just some people, myself included, where sometimes the delivery is not so great. You take the
Yeah.
message in, and you realize, wow, what he was saying is actually true. It's actually a very good point and can be helpful for you. So, what position you play, Luke?
Attack and midi, mostly midi.
Mostly midi.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and Lucas, I'm assuming you're an attackman.
Yeah, I'm an attackman.
You plant yourself down on that left side?
Left and X, whoever's on the field with me.
Okay, that's good. And Luke, you are you right-handed or left-handed?
Right-handed.
Right-handed primarily, but you use your left, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's interesting, Luke? Do you go back on defense a lot? I'm just curious.
A little bit.
Or do you come off?
I usually come off,
Okay.
but like in transition, like I go back.
Okay, yeah. Sometimes you got to get stuck on a field. Like back in the day, see, that's a whole different way guys play now. Back in the day, you automatically had to play both sides. That was just the nature of the game. There's a whole game in between those lines that if you're really knowledgeable at it, you could create fast breaks. You can cut off fast breaks. Do you go on the wing? How about that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's another key part of the game. So what do you think, Lucas? What do you think are the strengths of your team?
I think we're good all around, and we have lots of great players.
Yeah. So what would you say is are you more of an offensive team? Do you think, or you seem more stingy on defense?
I think we're equally great at both.
Okay, all right, that's good. I like that. So you both come from historic lacrosse families. Do you ever feel pressure because of that? How about you, Luke? You first.
Yeah. Like when people are watching and they know my last name, it's like sometimes kind of stressful, but just got to play lacrosse. I mean,
Exactly. What about you, Lucas?
Not really.
No?
No.
No, you don't seem to have that personality type. You don't even really think about it, do you?
Yeah, I don't really think about that.
That's good. That's good. That's a good way to be. Listen, there's a lot of there's a lot of families that play lacrosse, and sometimes when it's generationally, whether it's father son, myself, my brother was a historic player, epic, legendary player, and he's 10 years older. So I always had a little bit of pressure, but when the best way I handled it was I said, well, I'm not trying to be him. I'm just going to play as good as I can play and better myself, because it's not fair. It's not fair to put yourself to try to live up to your fathers or your uncles or cousins or any other relations, because most people aren't as good as them anyway. So you're chasing something that most other people are trying to chase, but the real thing, it's almost like golf in a way. And I know you guys in Florida play golf a lot. You go to make your personal best score, make your game better for you, help your team. That's more important. If you grow as a person and a player, you're gonna reach your potential. And that's it seems to be happening with you guys, because to qualify for this tournament is not so easy. This is only 25 teams in the country, and it's very, very hard games. So that's what are you looking forward to most on the trip?
playing better competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Do you travel on other Luke? Do you travel on other tournaments, or do you mainly your team stay in Florida most of the time?
we mostly just stay in Florida, and then like sometimes we gotta say it.
Right. Nice. Do you have you played any of these teams? Like any of the in the group of the 25 in the past? Have you happened to come across them at all?
Yeah, so we just had a tournament this weekend in Philadelphia, different like place, but
Okay.
we played the same teams. So it was really good to see what we're gonna go up against.
Okay, so you got a chance to see them. Do you know any of the kids? Do the kids is it pretty much not or recognize their faces or be like, "Wow, I played against this guy before."
No, I haven't seen any of those kids.
Yeah, that's hard. It's hard playing against kids when you don't know who they are because you don't know what they do. Although I always say in lacrosse you can figure it out pretty quick. So
Yeah,
what would you say, Luke? What would you say are your best attributes as a player? What do you think you do well?
dodging, passing mostly.
So as a midfielder, you're a good passer from the midfield?
Mhm. Yeah,
Oh, that's good. Well, that's important. What do you say, Lucas?
So when I dodge, I mainly dodge from X. So I'm always looking where the slide's coming from and looking to feed crease and step downs.
Do you consider yourself, Lucas, you consider yourself more of a passer or a scorer?
I think I'm more of a passer.
Yeah, something tells me with your father and uncle that was probably going to be the case. But you know, as an attackman, see, I was always a midi. I was always a two-way midi. But as a geezer, I learned, boy, attack is easy. I'm like, I should have been playing attack my whole life. This is simple. Luke's got the hard position. He's got to go fight for balls. He's got to play defense sometimes. But you know, attack's very, very important because in the end of the day, you only win by scoring goals, and the attack guys are around the goal, and whether that's passing or scoring, like your dad, Lucas, he became a better scorer as he got older. He was always primarily more of a passer, but then he got much better at scoring, and when he was with teams that were more midfield oriented, then he could actually get a lot of scoring opportunities. So it's look what always happens in these tournaments, and I would say when you're up there is the teams that play the best team game win. If guys
yeah,
start individually try to carry something, then normally it doesn't go that well. But the teams who play good team defense and the teams that share the ball, those are the teams that really have success in these tournaments. And it's got to be really exciting to represent you. And what's the other team from Florida that's representing Florida with you guys?
So it was like regional, so there's no other team from Florida, but the other team is 3D Georgia.
Oh, okay. So you're the only team in Florida.
Yeah.
So you're representing Florida. That's good. Okay. Wow. So these emerging areas always seem to be happening from the Northeast people who relocate and move. And you guys were both born in Florida.
yeah.
Yes. I was born in New York, but I moved down here. I don't remember New York.
You don't really remember New
Yeah.
York, see?
Yeah.
Were you rooting for the Knicks or you
Uh
rooting for the Heat?
I'm a Warriors fan.
Warriors fan. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And a Dallas Cowboys fan.
No.
Okay. Who do you root for in Florida? You root for the Dolphins?
I root for San Francisco 49ers.
Boy, wow, you're Lucas. You are really out there. How
Yeah.
about you, Luke? Who are your teams? Who are the pro teams do you follow?
Dolphins fan, and then like kind of Knicks fan because my family's from New York, but that's really it.
Nice. How about PLL?
I
Who do
like
you
the Whip
guys
Snakes.
follow? You like Whip Snakes?
Yeah,
I like the Atlas because on one of my other teams I play for, one of my coaches is named Will Mark. He's the backup goalie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you know? I bet you didn't know. Will Mark went to the school I went to for a little bit. He went to Post
Yeah.
before he went to Syracuse.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, he was great. He's great. So what players do you are you fans of in like PLL and stuff or college? Who do you try to emulate when you're playing, Luke?
Uh, Splina, but he just got there, so
Joey
I don't know.
Spallina?
Yeah, but yeah, that's really it.
Well, that's okay. Well, he's a tremendous guy to model a game after. High IQ.
Yeah.
You know. How about you, Lucas?
I really like Mikey Sowers.
Mikey Sowers. Okay, that's another guy. Quick, lightning bug. You know who else is like him and Sowers used to train him? Ryan Goldstein from Cornell.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Another guy on the attack, quick as lightning, and smaller type frame. Just shows you, I think Lucas seems like a monster out there. He's bigger than any normal lows. He's although Kevin was kind of big, but shows you in lacrosse you don't necessarily always need the size if you got the quickness and the IQ. So have you thought about you guys are a few years away from any of the recruiting kind of things, but do you ever think about schools that you'd like to play for in the future?
Well, obviously like Brown and Princeton, because like in the lineage, but I'm keeping everything open. Like I've been on like I went to Duke. It was a pretty nice campus. I just went to Air Force. I had a tournament there. That was an awesome campus. But I'm not like
You never know. They might have Florida State might have a team,
yeah.
or somebody like that. What about you, Luke?
Yeah, same. Like, just keeping it open, but like mainly maybe Syracuse, but maybe
I
Cornell.
know
I don't
there's a
know.
lot of. I hear a lot of Syracuse people just cheered when they're going to hear that. They're going to love
Yeah.
hearing that. Another cav of it at Syracuse. Well, the most important thing I could tell you with that is hit the books. You want to keep as many doors open as possible. More doors close when you slip up in the schoolwork. No matter how good you are. It's if you keep your grades good, your opportunities are good, and you keep those doors open. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of schools looking at you when you're a couple years away from really traveling around and getting in touch with coaches and that process will be on you faster than you even know it. Believe it or not, and and you're now and school's out, right? You guys,
Yeah.
Yeah.
when did you finish school?
4 weeks ago.
Okay, wow. See, that's why that's the weird calendar.
Finished.
And when does your year start, Luke? When does the school year start?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
Sometime in
It's like
I have no idea.
August.
Uh,
August though, right?
yeah, it's like
Yeah,
August like
August.
15th, something like that.
Okay, that's pretty
Yeah,
early.
it's like in
That's pretty
August.
early. And what grade? You're going into 8th grade, right?
Yeah.
Going into 8th. Okay, so do they consider 9th grade middle school down there, or
No.
so 9th is high school?
Yep.
So this is your last year of middle school. And what school do you guys go to the same school?
No. I go to the Benjamin School.
You go to Benjamin School, and where do you go, Luke?
SMS, Door Middle School.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. And you got teams there, and you play. You get your last middle school year in. You guys are doing all right. Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time, to talk to us. This is great. We like
Yeah.
to get the high school. We like to get the young guys in there to get to see the future of the game. We usually do a shout out. So it could be anybody. You can shout out your teammates. You can shout out anyone you want. You can pretty much. I'll do my shout out first. My shout out is going to go to Tony Seaman, who's a legendary coach. When I was playing at Post, he was coaching at University of Pennsylvania. Now he coaches St. Andrews down there, and he had a great season. We saw him a couple years ago when I was in Florida down playing, and he's just every level he's ever coached at. And he did coach at Post, actually, before I ever went to Post. He was actually coaching. Look at the coaches they had. They had Coach Seaman, then John Danowski, who's now at Duke, and then Tom Postel, who was my coach, was a legendary Hall of Fame coach. So Tony Seaman, tremendous coach. Give him a shout out. He's got his St. Andrews team clicking down there. And, all of you guys are going to have to, compete with him if he keeps coaching. And trust me, he's a handful. He's an excellent coach. So who wants to go? Lucas, you got a shout out?
Yeah, I'll shout out Will Godino. I've played with him since 6U, and we've always had good chemistry. He's a lefty attackman too.
Nice. So does he go behind when you're on the left side and vice versa?
No, I usually go behind and feed to him.
Nice.
He's like the finisher.
Okay, good. Good. That's great. All right. How about you, Luke?
Kalani Birdsell. I've been playing with him for like 7 years now, probably. And just he plays midi with me. We're always on the same line, and he also plays on stealth. And yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I'm wishing you the best of luck. I hope you have safe travels. And, we're going to check in. We're going to check in and keep an eye on it and see how you're doing, through the apps because they give you all the scores right away. So we'll be checking it out. And everybody else hang on. And we will be right back.